breaking boundaries. And what better movement right now to look at related to breaking boundaries than the LGBT movement when it comes to marriage equality. This aired in 1999. In 1999, no one in the United States lived in an area where people of the same sex could be married. Now, 70% of the population lives in an area of the United States that allows same-sex marriage. I think it seems like we've broken some really big boundaries, doesn't it? We've changed people's minds. We had in people's heads that marriage was the union of one man and one woman. And now it includes the union of two women or two men. But you have to start back a little bit further than 1999 to think about how this movement started. See, in the 60s, in response to a Pleasantville 1950s era and the 1960s era of Mad Men, we had a response of free love. It was a huge, big tent. Interracial relationships, polyamory, loving more than one person at a time, serial monogamy, loving one person at a time but many people over time. These were pretty groundbreaking ideas. And for a long time, through the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, that movement was a big tent, and it stuck together. And something kind of crazy happened. When the Bush v. Gore, which means so much to all of us in Palm Beach County, happened, there was an extra outreach to social conservatives, a promise that we were going to put into the United States Constitution language that would ban same-sex marriage from the United States forever. And it really got conservatives fired up, not only for 2000, but 2002 and 2004, 2006. It really got people moving to the polls. And we started to have a really awful argument in front of young people, in front of all people, about what marriage was, what constitutes a marriage, and what we should recognize as a marriage. So you have to wonder, why was marriage, or why is marriage, such a big deal to so many people? Why is it a big deal? It's a big deal because it provides validation. It gives you an idea of the person that you're speaking to, that they have a significant other. It validates their character in your mind, even if it's subconscious. It's been what we have been told to be looking for. So for instance, when our former governor, Charlie Crist, was being looked at as a vice presidential candidate, he was kind of quickly dismissed. Why? Because he wasn't married, because he didn't have a family, because he didn't have that backup. The concept that we've broken boundaries by opening the door to marriage to same-sex couples has only reinforced, for many people, an idea that I call couplehood singularity. That we have this idea that a person isn't a whole person unless they're half of a couple. And that you're going to go through your life and you're going to have a lot of benchmarks in your life. And what you're going to see throughout your life is that you graduate college, hopefully, graduate high school, hopefully, but at some point in time, people are going to start looking at you and they're going to assume that you're not going to be single forever. I bring this up because I have a friend who's 62 years old, and she was asked by a man how old she was. She said 62, and he said, so are you married? And she said no. And he said, are you divorced? No. Widowed? No. She goes, you've never been married? And she said, Tony, he looked at me like I had just announced to him that I had terminal cancer. And then he had the audacity to say, so you've had no long-term meaningful relationships in your life? She's like, I've many long-term meaningful relationships in my life. So is that backwards or forwards? Okay, good. And the idea that for so long we've ingrained in people's minds that there will be a point that you're going to find someone who's going to complete you, right? We have these two divergent messages. You should love yourself, but then somebody else should love you, and that will validate you. I use the example that when I went to get my marriage license, we went to the clerk's office, and there was a sign that had arrows, 3 of them, and it said birth certificate, marriage license, death certificate. As if you didn't get that marriage license, that you were just going from birth to death and there was no more meaning in your life. And that is so ingrained in our society. And I think that the call to action that I'm asking is to recognize when we throw that bias, when we throw that stigma of singularity, of being single, on the people around us, when we realize that we're using that to compare ourselves to others, how that actually impacts the young people that are watching us, the young people that are listening to us fight over marriage equality, and the irony that gays and lesbians did not start this movement. We were in a big tent, we were on a big bus with a lot of people who were looking for equality. And then suddenly we were offered marriage and we're like, we want to get off here. Good luck with that polyamory thing. Good luck, moving forward. We need to be part of a bigger equal rights movement and stay part of a bigger equal rights movement. And if that means including the people in our lives that do want to love many people, or do want to have serial monogamy, or never want to get married, or want to marry somebody of the same sex, that's actually what we have to do, is we have to keep our mind open to that's what real equality would be allowing people to have the significant relationships in their lives that are meaningful to them and fulfilling to them. Thank you.